I know. That's what I'm saying. It's all right, it's all right.
That's one of our things. It was still. Are you following us? Are we good?
I'm ahead of you. Are you? I'm in the center of the bridge. Where are you? Where are you?
Right here, baby.
Pass me. Yes! Yes. Dude. Oh my God. Perfect timing. That was it. I don't even need another shot. So this is the A1 by Antigravity, the world's first 360 camera drone. And today we're going to talk about it. Okay, so no, this video is not sponsored by Antigravity. They do not get to see this video before it comes out. However, they did send this over for us to check out and fly for the last couple weeks. So we did get to try it out in trade to review for this video. But all the opinions are our own, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so we know that the drone space has been in trouble for a while, especially here in the States. It's been a little bit messy with things like DJI possibly getting banned. But aside from that, we know that it's been in trouble because there's been a lot of copycats. There's been a lot of just stagnation. There hasn't been a lot of innovation in the last few years. So when Antigravity rolled up with this thing a few months ago, of course, it got a lot of attention and it got a lot of heads turned because it's definitely something completely new in the space. Now, if you go back and watch the previous video, I kind of led with the last video saying that people have been sought after 360 flying footage for a while by faking it using 360 cameras, by attaching it either to a drone or by just faking it. So the concept of a 360 flying camera is not new, but really this is the first of its kind where they've put it all together in one package and it actually works fluidly. You don't have to do any hacking. You're not sort of making things up as it goes, and it works out of the box. So like I said, I've been testing this thing for a few weeks, maybe about a month now, and I've got a chance to put it through its paces. It has been updated since the original initial review, which we did several months ago out in Southern California. So this is a production model. This is what will be going out on the shelf. In fact, the firmware has been updated weekly since we've got it, which is cool. They've been rigorously updating the firmware weekly, which is great. We've had a chance to continue to test the new firmware as it comes out. So everything that you're going to see in this review video is obviously going to be dependent on those firmware updates. So whenever it does hit the shelf and you pick up a copy, if you get your own, it may even change a little bit from that. But for the most part, this is what you're going to see when you purchase it on the shelf. So the big thing we're going to cover today, obviously, is going to be a lot of those specs that we missed in that first video. But the biggest thing we're probably going to cover today is going to be the price. It is expensive, and we're going to let you know, is it worth picking up and putting in your bag? All right, so before we get deep into the details here in the studio, let's go ahead and take it outside and have some fun with it. Hey, what's going on, guys? So we are out here. This is a really cool zone because it's one of the only spots that you can see the river and the ocean in the same spot. So we're gonna fly the A1 and do a little test. I've got a couple guys out here on bikes. We've got Brian, Daniel, and Britton out here. They've volunteered their time. I think this is going to be a pretty cool test. We're going to see what the A1 can do. Hopefully, one, we can keep up with the speed of these guys, but two, let's see what kind of cool footage we can get out of the A1 since we're in such a beautiful zone and it is a perfect day to fly this thing. All right, let's get into it. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. Now that we're back here in the studio, let's go ahead and break this thing down and talk about it piece by piece and go deep into the details. Let's talk about some detailed specs. So we already know that the drone comes in under 249 grams. So the flight time with the regular capacity battery is going to be about 24 minutes. The flight time with the high capacity battery is going to be about 39 minutes. And in my tests, that was about what I was getting in both of them. So those are pretty accurate. Now, depending on which package you get, depends on how many batteries you get. And of course, you're going to be able to buy extra batteries. We'll get into the packages just a little bit later. So continuing with the drone, flight distance. With the regular battery, you're going to be able to fly around 8 miles. Now, this is what they're saying on paper, that you're able to fly about 8 miles distance out. And with the high capacity battery, you can fly around 14 miles out. In my experience, I was not able to fly more than about a mile away from the transmission system, which is the headset. Before it was returning to home, it would disconnect, lose signal, and then automatically return to home, which we will get into just a little bit later also. But on paper, that is what they're claiming. Again, in my experience, I was not able to do those tests or complete the test to that far of a distance. However, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to. Of course, distance tests are all relative, so line of sight, perfect conditions, those things definitely take a lot into effect. So you have to take those kind of numbers with a grain of salt and do your own tests. All right, let's talk about the drone speed. In sport mode, you're getting about 35 miles an hour. In normal mode, you're getting about 27 miles an hour. And in cinematic mode, you're getting about 6 to 7 miles per hour. When I was doing tests, that's about what I was getting. Again, wind is going to have a huge factor on those. So if you're flying in windier conditions, you're definitely going to be affected in those different modes versus a non-windy condition. So if you're flying with the wind or against the wind, of course, that's going to affect it. So again, depending on your conditions, it's going to be relative to what you're flying in. The drone takes a micro SD card and it can support up to 1 terabyte on a micro SD, which I think is pretty cool. So it does have the ability to take those larger SD cards, and you're definitely going to need them, especially if you are recording in the 8K mode. The footage is huge. If you've ever used any of the Insta360 cameras that record in 8K, the files become large quite fast. So the larger the storage, the better off you are. You're not going to have to flip as micro SD cards as often. So just keep that in mind when you're shopping for an SD card. All right, now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the question that everybody is probably wondering spec-wise. What is the camera sporting as far as sensors? So the camera is dual 1/1 2.8-inch sensors, which is basically the same cameras as the Insta360 X5. So if you're used to or have ever used the X5, it's the same sensors. And of course it's dual, so there's one on each side of the drone. It's got a fixed aperture of 2.2 on each lens, and the ISO range goes from 100 to 6400. The video modes that are available are standard video and slow motion. As of right now, there's no pure video mode or any of the other Insta360 style video modes. In future updates, those will probably become available with either firmware updates or maybe just software updates. And it does take standard photos. You can also do HDR. You can do burst photos as well. All right, so now let's talk about video resolution and codecs. I'm gonna leave a graphic up on the screen because there's way too much to just rattle off. So you can pause the screen here if you want to check out exactly what all the different resolutions and codecs are. Obviously, the main one that you're gonna wanna look at is the 8K resolution. And the max frame rate that it shoots at 8K is 30 frames a second. All right, so let's talk about the obstacle sensing system. So it's got a forward and downward binocular system. So it can sense obviously going forward and it can sense going down. There are no sensors on the back end of the drone. You're not really flying this drone backwards. In fact, you can't even fly it in reverse. And part of the reason for that is you never need to. With the 360 footage, you're able to repurpose the edit. If you need to go in reverse or get footage behind you, you just reposition it within the edit. Same thing goes for flying side to side. You're never flying side to side. Essentially, you're just pointing the drone and flying in that direction. If you need to get imagery from the sides, you're just repositioning that in the 360 footage. So you never need to fly either to the sides or to the back. And of course, it has a return to home system. If the drone disconnects from the goggles, it automatically returns to home. And this actually does work great. It happened to me a few times. Yeah, just hang there because the drone is coming back right now on its own because it lost signal. I was trying to keep up with them. They were going like 25, 30 miles an hour. I was not in sport mode. And it seemed like I was able to keep up. I don't know if I can keep up in sport mode. We're going to try it again. And I'm going to put it in sport mode. But around the 2 mile mark, it lost signal. Right now, the drone is returning to home, which is cool because I could not see what was going on at all. It is on its way back right now, which is awesome. I didn't have to do anything. It just automatically kicked in and it started flying back. More tests to come. All right. Of course, you can hit return to home when you want to land, and it's pretty accurate and it does a pretty great job at just returning back to a safe distance that you can set for a height, and then it just returns to home like a normal drone would. All right, so let's talk about the goggles, which I think is probably one of the higher achievements that they did as far as technology goes. The drone is great itself, but I think a lot of the camera tech was already built, obviously with Insta360 having the X5 out there and obviously their lineage of 360 cameras. The drone tech itself, you know, they didn't really reinvent the wheel there. So the goggles do feel a little bit more from the ground up as far as like them building new tech on their own. Now, as far as a footprint goes, they are just under 340 grams, which feels pretty light. Now, I know there's a lot of other, you know, higher end FPV drone goggles that are out there that might be smaller and lighter. But as far as what you can buy out of the box and off the shelf, these are probably some of the smaller and lighter versions available. The battery itself, which is pretty small and light, and you wear it around this lanyard, is just 200 grams and it lasts about 2.5 hours. So you're getting pretty good battery life out of it. The one thing I will say, and I'm going to say this again later on in my pros and cons, but this cable that comes with it, which is a barrel connector, which this connects to the actual goggles, and then this locking connector, which is actually the part that connects to the battery. This feels a little flimsy. It's kind of just a regular rubber cable, something you may get with your, you know, iPhone or whatnot, or an old iPhone, because now you get a braided cable with your iPhone. I think this could have been a little bit more high end. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but I just think that, you know, this could have been a little bit better, maybe even a little bit longer as well. But anyway, hopefully in the future, we'll get better options, or maybe this is an accessory you can buy. So let's talk about the internals of the goggle as far as the screens. So inside the goggles, we have two 1.03-inch micro OLED screens, and each screen has a resolution of 2560 by 2560. And the resolution and the brightness is pretty good, and it's really high quality. The micro OLEDs, I think, are really nice when you're, as a viewing experience, when you're looking in. Now, the goggles are a pretty tight fit, and one of the comments that I got on my original video was, can you fit these big glasses in there? And the answer is no. So to fix that problem, you do have diopters inside. So these knobs here allow you to adjust the distance of those lenses inside, and then you can also turn them. So if you do wear corrective lenses, they do have the ability to adjust to them. The prescription strength, it is going to be obviously probably limited more to a wider range. So I don't know if it's going to fit a one-size-fit-all type thing. But for the most part, they probably do cover a big wide range of corrective lenses. Hopefully in the future, you know, they'll have, you know, more options available as time goes on. But either way, you can use these to correct your vision. So I don't have to wear my glasses. It's almost impossible, obviously, to fit these giant glasses inside the headset. So for that comment out there, there's your answer. Now, there is an external display on here, and I do not know the resolution on that. That's the one thing I did not get an answer on just yet. So eventually, you know, hopefully we'll get an answer on that. It is obviously not as good as the internal display, but we'll get into what the external display does a little bit later. There is a camera right here in the center, and that is for pass-through. So you double-click the button on the side here, and that allows you to have pass-through. The pass-through is black and white, so you're not getting a color pass-through, which is obviously fine. You don't want to be draining your battery. It's not high resolution pass-through, but it is a pass-through camera so that you can walk around and see in front of you. You're not just walking blind. If you need to move around when you're wearing the goggles, you don't have to take them off every time. There is a micro SD card slot on the internals of the goggle, so you can record your experience of what you're seeing as the pilot, and you can then obviously share that if you want. It also does record audio, so there is a microphone on board here on the goggle, so if you're talking while you're flying, you do get to record that experience. One of the cooler things about the goggles, so the screen on the front, it has the ability to show in real time what the pilot is seeing as far as where the pilot is flying, depending on what direction the drone is pointing, which is kind of cool. So you can sort of join in the experience by just looking at the outside of the goggles. Now, they're saying that it doesn't separate you from your friends and family when you're flying. It kind of joins everybody in the experience, which to some degree it kind of does. When I was flying with some friends, they were able to see where I was at the same time I was flying, so they were able to kind of get a view, which was kind of cool, and it seemed to work pretty well. It didn't really have any issues as far as latency or lagginess or cutting out or anything like that, so pretty cool overall. All right, so let's talk about the grip controller. So the grip controller comes in weigh around 124 grams, which is pretty light. It is a little bit heavier than some of the other controllers out there on the market, but it is also a little bit bigger, and it is also doing a little bit more. It still has all the buttons that we went over in the previous video. So you've got your brake button, which this button automatically will stop. It's got the button here that lifts and raises the drone from takeoff. It's got a record button. It's got a camera button. This wheel here moves the drone back and forth in a circle, so you don't have to always point the drone in a direction. Of course, it's got the trigger, which is sort of like your accelerator button. It's got a menu button on the side here. So this button, when you click it, brings up the menu inside of the goggles, the power button. And then it's got on the other side here, it's got a mode button where you go to your normal, sport, and cinematic mode. And then it's got a few other function buttons. So the controller hasn't really changed much. It's pretty much exactly the same as what we saw when we were out flying with the go-karts, which is great. So it's pretty much exactly what you're going to get when you purchase the drone. The battery life on this guy is about 4 hours, which is exactly what they advertised. So it's pretty true to what they said. It charges USB and it charges pretty quickly. And in my experience, I charged it and I didn't have to really charge it for a couple weeks. All right, so let's talk about the biggest thing that everybody really wants to hear, which is price point. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the way that they've laid it out is they've laid it out in bundle packages, and all 3 bundle packages that they've laid out, you get at least everything that you see on the table here. So you're going to get this case, you're going to get a controller, you're going to get the drone, 1 battery, all the cables. You're going to get USB-C cables, but this is the cable for the headset, the battery pack for the goggles. So you're going to get all of that. So the first bundle is the standard bundle, and you're going to get everything that we just talked about here. The additional stuff you're going to get is you get a set of props. You get what they're calling a half set of propellers. You're going to get 4 with the standard bundle. So you can change out 1, 2, if you break 2. If you need additional, you're going to have to buy them separate. But in the standard bundle, you get at least 4 replacements to change. And they're not connected together. They're individual. So if you need to replace just 1 on a leg, you can replace just 1. You don't have to replace both at the same time. That also comes with the screwdriver tool that you need to replace them. You also get these corrective lens holders that go inside the goggles. So if you need additional corrective lenses, like I was talking about earlier, you will have the ability to buy those separate, but it does come with the corrective lens holders. You'll just have to get the corrective lenses made separately. So that's the standard bundle, and it's $15.99. And this is the case. This is not a bag, obviously. This is what they're calling the case. The case will only hold the drone itself. It's a really nice case. It's hard. So it's a hard shell case, but it will only hold the drone. And that comes in the standard package. And again, that's $15.99. I'll leave everything here on the screen so you can see everything that comes in each package, but this is what comes in the standard package. All right, so next up for the Explorer bundle, which is the mid-tier bundle, you're going to get everything that you get in the standard bundle. The difference is going to be you're going to get all 8 props, so you're going to get enough to replace all the props if you break them all. You're going to get 3 flight batteries, so these are the lower capacity batteries. So in the standard bundle, you get 1 of the flight batteries. In the mid-tier bundle, you're going to get 3, but you're also going to get a dock for the batteries, which is really nice. So you can charge all 3 batteries at the same time by plugging in USB-C on the side here. So you get to charge them all together versus just charging in the back via USB on the drone. So you get the dock. You also get the bag. So that is the difference in the standard and the Explorer bundle. And the price difference in here is going to be, this is going to be $18.99 for the Explorer bundle. All right, and let's talk about the last bundle that you're going to get, which is the bundle they sent us. It's called the Infinity Bundle. And the main difference between the Infinity Bundle and the Explorer Bundle is the battery type. So you're going to get, instead of 3 of the flight batteries, which are the lighter, less capacity batteries, you're going to get 3 high capacity batteries. So you're basically getting double the flight time in the batteries with 3 of the high capacity batteries. It does make the drone heavier, so it's no longer under the 249 gram limit. So if that is a big concern, the Infinity Bundle's probably not going to be your best bet if you're looking to stay under the 249 gram limit. If, you know, obviously traveling is an issue and you need to stay under the 249 gram, or if you're worried about drone laws and you want to stay under the 249 gram or 250 gram limit, obviously the Infinity Bundle is not going to get you there. So I would recommend going with one of the other bundles or buying a smaller battery to have with you at all times so that you can stay under that limit. The other additional item that you get is this, which is a micro SD card reader. So this is just a little quick Lightning and also USB-C card reader. One side is USB-C, the other side is Lightning, and it's just a quick card reader. Nothing crazy, but this comes with it. It's just a nice little perk that comes with this package. The biggest price difference, though, is going to be the batteries. That's what's making it the extra $100 between the 2 packages. This is going to be $19.99 as shown. Obviously, all 3 of these packages are really expensive. There's definitely nothing to slouch at here. And that is going to be, you know, one of the biggest reasons to, or a reason not to buy this particular drone. All right, let's quickly touch on some flight modes that are available in the A1 as of now. Some of these did and didn't work based on the firmware that I was running at the time of testing. But they have some of the typical flight modes that you would see in some of the other drones that are available on the market. They have what they're calling Sky Genie. And Sky Genie is basically sort of like your automatic type flying modes where you can do some of the cooler tricks out there that might take a more experienced pilot to maneuver the drone. And the 3 that they currently have are called Orbit, Spiral, and Comet. And those are pretty standard drone moves, with the exception that it does the similar drone move that a normal drone would do. But the cool thing about this particular drone is that in the edit, if you do these moves, then you can now reposition the camera so you get quite a different effect out of the move. And it's kind of limitless as far as like what you could do post in the edit with these moves. And you could, you know, almost have 1,000 different versions of the same shot, which is, obviously the biggest selling point of a 360 camera in general, not just a flying 360 camera, but just a 360 camera in general. It's sort of the limitlessness of the ability to change your shot in the edit. One of the other big things that they've been working on is called SkyPath, and this is the ability to automate the drone. So you can plot out points with the drone ahead of time, and then you can just automate the drone through a SkyPath. So if you have a particular set of coordinates, or if you just, fly the drone in a certain pattern, then you can just automatically, you can hit a button and just let the drone automate and fly through it. One of the examples that they were using was to set up a bunch of plot points and automatically set the drone to go. So if you wanted to hand off the goggles to somebody else to give them the experience without having to fly the drone and just experience the flight, you could do so. Obviously, you could do that. You could also do things like, repetition. So if you needed to do repetitive flying, that's always been a big thing in normal drone patterns as well. So that's one of the other cool things. And again, another powerful thing is you could do that. And then when you get back into the edit, you can reposition that. So you have, a drone going around the same path, but now you can, you could have multiple directions out of that same path, just doing one pass. They also offer deep track. So this is tracking an object. You highlight a box and then you fly around the box, or track the box so the drone stays locked on. At the time when I tried this, I didn't have the greatest experience, and I'll show an example here. You can see, unfortunately, it quickly lost track. It still did eventually come back and track the object. Since then, it has been updated, but I have not been able to run another test, unfortunately. But I'm sure this is going to be worked out over time. It's just a matter of tweaking their algorithm and tweaking their settings over time to get better at this. But eventually, I'm assuming this deep track will get a lot better. It's worked pretty well on the Insta360 regular 360 cameras, so I'm just imagining over time it's just going to get better. They do have another feature called virtual cockpit, which I did not try at all. It was grayed out most of the time in the firmware versions that I did use. And I have to be honest, I was not really inclined to try it because I thought maybe this was a little bit gimmicky. So obviously, one of the comparisons to this particular drone is VR headsets. And VR headsets have a long history of just having gimmicky things within them, iteration after iteration, whether it's been Metaverse or Apple Vision Pro or, whatnot. You can just go back in time and just look at every version of a VR headset, and you can point to some sort of gimmick that they've done where you can find a game or a demonstration where you try to do something and it's really cool at the moment or the time, but it really just turns into a gimmick because it's just showing off the technology, or it's just showing off the fact that, hey, we can do this because you're in a virtual environment, but it's never really useful, or it never really lasts over time. It just sort of like falls to the wayside because it's just a gimmick. And that's what this may be. And maybe in the future, it turns out to be something else, but they call it virtual cockpit. Right now, they're saying it's fantasy meets flight. And basically, you're riding a dragon in real time. So it gives you a virtual reality dragon that you're riding through the sky. So it's a comped dragon in your real world space. It's almost like VR and AR put together, but I don't know. It seems a little gimmicky. Again, I did not try it because I didn't have time in my testing. And at the time that I was doing other tests, it was grayed out and I didn't get a chance to go back to it. So eventually maybe something else happens and it becomes cooler, but right now it seems a little gimmicky. Hopefully, it says expect more skins over the weeks of the release. So we'll see what they do with it. Maybe it becomes something cooler in the future. Maybe I'm proven wrong, but for right now, it just seems a little gimmicky. All right, so let's talk accessories. I think right now there's not a ton just because it's a new product. Over time, obviously there's going to be a ton of third-party accessories that come out for this. And then I assume Antigravity over time will start building up their library of accessories. Insta360 has a history of great accessories, and they have tons of accessories for all of their products. So it's in their bloodline. And I think that over time, they will just eventually come out with a ton of great accessories. But for now, let's just talk about the ones that we currently have. And I will start off with an additional battery. So like I was saying earlier, they will have additional batteries for sale. So this is a flight battery. So this is the lighter battery. They did send an extra one over. This is the battery that will make the drone 249 grams or under 250 grams. So if you are wanting to keep the drone lighter and make it under that 250 gram mark, you're definitely going to want to pick one of these up. I do not have any price points on the accessories just yet. They have not given that data out yet or that information. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure at the day of this at the release of this video, which is the day of launch, some of these probably will have prices on their website. So you can probably head over there and see the prices right away. But if you don't, just stay tuned. We will have updated prices on these. But this is the flight battery. One of the biggest and coolest accessories, and this is, I wouldn't even call this an accessory, I'll call this a necessity. This is a through line from Insta360 and their X camera series. This is a replacement lens kit. One of the coolest things about the A1 that they went ahead and just didn't even skimp on off the bat was they made it, they gave it the ability to have replacement lenses because they know that this thing is probably going to get trashed at some point, just from their experience or Insta360's experience with the X cameras. The X5 obviously was the first of the X cameras to have replaceable lenses. Now the X4 Air has replaceable lenses, and now the A1 has replaceable lenses. So when you buy this, I would highly recommend that you pick one of these up because it's probably going to happen. If it doesn't happen just flying it, it's probably going to happen because you forget to put the landing gear down or up when you take the drone out. I've done it a couple times already. Luckily, I didn't do it on anything where it scratched the lens. The bottom one is probably going to be the first one to go, I would imagine. When you turn the drone on, it doesn't automatically pop the landing gear out. In fact, you have to manually pull the landing gear out and then you can turn the drone on. You can turn the drone on here. I don't remember if the landing gear pops out, so maybe I am spoken on that. But when it does, when the drone lands, the landing gear automatically pops out. Also, when you go to put it back in the case, you have to fold the landing gear back up. It doesn't automatically fold back up because the drone is off, obviously. So you still have to manually move the landing gear up and down. So just know that at some point you may put the drone down without putting the landing gear down, especially if you've flown regular drones. It's just something you don't think about on the regular. Replacement lens kit, I think, is a necessity. Don't skimp out on this. Definitely pick one of these up. Again, I don't have a price point on this. I'm going to guess it's probably around the same price point as the X5 lenses, which is not very expensive. So hopefully I'm right. Again, I don't have the price point on this just yet. But yeah, pick those up. Definitely going to be worth it. Next up, and going along the through lines of the replacement lens kit, I've never been, out of all my drone experience, I've never been one to use a landing pad. But they sent this over, and until I have used this drone, I probably would continue never to use a landing pad. But again, when you're landing on concrete or asphalt or any rough surface other than, I don't know, something smooth like maybe the top of a car, you know, landing where this lens potentially could get scratched, I was throwing this thing down pretty much on every flight. I used it. I've used it on every flight that I've flown the drone on, just because I was so nervous that the landing gear wasn't going to pop out, or I was going to forget to put the landing gear out when I put the drone down. So it's already pretty beat up and marked up just from throwing it out. It's got, you know, obviously two sides. I definitely recommend getting this landing pad. If not this one, just a landing pad. It's definitely going to save somewhere down the line, either the sensors on the bottom or the lens. You know, I've flown many drones before and never even thought about the sensors on the bottom or cared about it. But this time with the lens, you know, I don't think I'll ever fly without this. All right, and then the last accessory that's currently available through Antigravity are these prop guards. Now, most drones these days have a set of prop guards. These are really made for flying inside. You know, obviously, when you're flying inside, you're probably going to be hopefully flying safe. But if you're flying in like a real estate situation, because I think this is going to be a great drone for real estate situations, to be able to fly through a space and have 360 footage of a house or, you know, just a space that you want to show off, having prop guards is going to be really important because, again, this only has a front-facing sensor and a bottom-facing sensor. So if something does happen to come to the side of it or the rear of it, it's not going to be able to detect that. Even though you can't fly sideways or backwards, you know, that doesn't stop something else from hitting it. So getting these prop guards is probably going to be really important. I have not flown it inside yet or tried these yet, but just given my experience with other drones and flying inside with and without prop guards, highly recommend that you get prop guards. So right now, those are the only accessories that are available that I know of. I'm sure Antigravity is going to come out with more, and of course, third-party accessories are going to be more. So be on the lookout for those, and we will link everything that we know of in the description in the bottom. So yeah, stay tuned. So let's talk about all the good stuff before we get into some of the stuff that I think could be improved or even the bad stuff. So the good stuff, and the thing that I'll go back to, which was my initial impression in the first video, this thing is extremely easy to fly. If you've never flown a drone, or if you have little experience flying a drone, you don't need any. In fact, I put this in the hands of a couple friends who've never flown drones or have minimal experience, and they were able to pick it up really easy. Not only did they have a ton of fun flying it, but they flew it like they had been flying, you know, for a while, and they caught on really quick. First time flying a drone?
Nope.
Flown a drone?
Yeah, I've flown DJI.
Okay.
Okay.
How's it feel?
It feels very odd. Very cool though. The fact that you can see 360, that's insane.
You're just gonna record. So I'm recording the footage now.
Okay.
So yeah, if you squeeze the trigger, pull you forward.
Forward, okay.
Yep. And then just wherever you want to point, that's where you go.
So, oh, okay, I see it. Yep. So it shows the speed in here as well?
It does. I think it's in kilometers.
Okay.
Meters.
Oh yeah, I see it. Meters per second. Okay.
It's like Nate.
Yeah, meters. Oh, it's amazing.
You can change it, but I don't know if it's just so.
Drone has reached maximum altitude. Okay. So if I wanted to go down, I'd have to.
You can slide down.
Okay.
Or you can point down.
Or you can point down. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Wow.
Pretty wild.
That's crazy. Yep. Got to get one of these.
Have you flown a drone?
I have not.
All right. So first time. Not a bad way to fly for the first time. You may never want to fly a regular drone.
It's so much easier than. This is so cool. This thing's actually really easy to fly. You're right. Oh man, it's awesome.
What'd you think?
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Oh, nice. You called a.
I want one of these now.
Yeah, that's it.
Just take my wallet.
Okay. What the hell? Yo. What?
Isn't it?
And how do I go around?
What do you mean?
Like, how do I make it go that way?
Well,
Like, how do I make it flip?
wherever you turn the remote, turn around. Like, turn around.
Oh, just turn around like this?
Yeah. See the little.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. What the hell? Oh, yeah, this is sick, bro.
Missed the landing
like-
again.
I feel like a little kid.
You want a new battery?
No, bro, like, that was great.
The way they've designed this and how you can just point in the direction you want to fly, pull the trigger, almost like a video game style way of flying, just makes sense. Going back to the goggles, the second thing I'll say is the goggles, again, they feel great. They're comfortable. They're light. They don't really give you a ton of fatigue. The only thing I will say that really was a little uncomfortable, and this may be just because of how they fit on my head, the band right here gets a little bit annoying on my ear. So I had to adjust and just raise them up. I ended up wearing them with a hat, and that felt a little bit more comfortable. So, you know, that's, again, that could just be me, and that's going to be, it's hard to fit something like that across a spectrum for every person. It's kind of like the earbud thing where you try to get them to fit for everybody. It's almost impossible. So, you know, eventually I'm sure there's going to be a way to make the strap more comfortable over time, but as far as the weight of them, they don't fall down over time. They feel pretty good, and they're just comfortable, and the lanyard doesn't feel heavy over time. The rope they give you is really comfortable. It's not annoying. It's not rubbing on your neck. And it's just overall a pretty, you know, seamless and pleasant experience to use them. So let's talk about video quality for the drone. So the drone itself, it's on par with the X5, and that's because, again, it's using the X5 sensors. So the quality of the drone itself is pretty good. I would say it's good enough to use in a professional environment. In fact, just before the World Series, they were shooting some professional ads with them. So it has already been used in a professional setting. So the drone is definitely more than capable of using in pro settings. However, you know, in the future, it'll be great if they open up some of that technology to be a little bit more pro, and we'll go into that in just a second in the cons of it. But other than that, if you're just using this for, you know, prosumer adventure, or if you're just using it for social media, or if you're just using it for yourself, it's perfectly fine. It works just on par with all the other Insta360 style cameras. The sensor's great. The technology's great. It, you know, records perfectly fine. It's 8K because it's 4K plus 4K. It's not 8K and 8K. It's, you know, two 4K sensors putting it together. When you stitch them together, it's 8K. And the footage is great, and it works perfectly fine. And of course, you know, flying is great. And it's, again, going back to the ease, you just fly in one direction, and then the power is going to be in your edit. So how creative you want to be is really going to come down into your edit. You can get creative planning your shots ahead of time, and that'll obviously make your edit better, but you don't have to. You can just go out and fly, and then you can be more creative in your edit later on. One thing I will say is, because it's an ultra wide lens, the closer you get to things, the cooler the shot is going to be. But obviously that comes with, you know, safety and being careful and things like that. So just take that into account. But the further you are, the harder it is to get a really cool dynamic shot, but you can still get great shots. But the closer you are, because it's such an ultra wide lens, that is where, you know, the cooler, more dynamic shots are going to be. All right, so of course, there's not all great things to say about a product, so there's definitely going to be some bads and some cons. So let's talk about those. So first off, I touched about this earlier. The transmission issues definitely are a problem. This is going to cause some issues if you're in an area that has high frequency issues, or just issues in general where you're going to lose transmission. Obviously, you don't want this thing disconnecting and flying off on you and you just lose it, because it is expensive, right? That's going to be a bummer. It'd be pretty sad if you just spent, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 on this thing, and then all of a sudden it disconnects and you lose it. I did have, you know, pretty good luck of it just returning to home and coming back when it did disconnect, but who's to say it's going to happen every time? So just keep that in mind, that, you know, transmission could be an issue, and hopefully that is going to be fixed as we move forward. But that was one of the bigger cons. Next up, again, some of those features are pretty gimmicky. I think that, you know, the resources it takes to either build those, or even the onboard processing utilization that it takes to run some of those, could probably be used for other things. I don't know what it takes, or what it's being, you know, what the resources on board are being used for, or how much is actually happening on board. But I feel like, you know, that resource could be utilized for something else, maybe to strengthen in an area that's weak, or maybe just put it towards something, another feature that could be more useful to the user, to enhance the user experience. I know that they're fun, and I know that they're cool, that you can do them, but to me, it just seems like it's a little bit gimmicky, and that we could, you know, do away with those. I think, you know, there could be better use of those resources. So along with the software, I think, you know, some of the other video modes that are available on some of the other 360 cameras, I think would be cool to see added to this. Right now, there's not. So for instance, there's no pure video mode or something like a pure video mode where you can fly in low light. It would be really cool if you could fly this in a lower light environment. I think you could get some really cool footage if you were able to fly this, you know, in an environment where there's either night or lower light. That would be really cool. Right now, it's not available. Maybe that's coming down the pipeline. But as of now, you know, it's kind of a bummer that you're only kind of stuck to the brightest of environments, which is sunny or, you know, just broad daylight type environments. So hopefully we'll see that in the future. Along with that, and this goes back to the video modes, but also the accessories, seeing higher codecs and better bit rates in the future to make it more professional would be great. So something like a 10-bit version of like 10-bit log version so that we could get professional codecs to color grade better. Right now, you can change the camera into a manual mode, but it's kind of useless because there are no ND filters available. So that goes along with the accessories. If we had ND filters, you could then use the camera in a manual mode, but right now it's kind of useless to use it in manual mode. So you're kind of stuck with automatic if you want to shoot. And automatic, you know, you're getting what you get for motion blur and things like that. So hopefully we can get some more of those prosumer professional type setting availabilities in the future, either through you know, obviously adding ND filters as an accessory, and then obviously if we can just add some of those higher codecs and bit rates to the camera, if they can do that through firmware, that would be amazing just to have the ability to do that. And then going for a little bit of the hardware side, all the hardware for the most part is pretty premium, and even including down to like the cases, the little case that the drone comes in, and then the case, the bag itself are all pretty premium. The battery is great for the headset, and this rope is great, that the lanyard that you hang it on. But I talked about this earlier. This cable that connects from the headset to the battery is really flimsy. It's just a typical rubber cable. And it feels like after a couple months, this thing is probably going to shred, you know, either at the ends here or just the cable itself after just, you know, throwing it in the bag over so much time. The other thing is this is just a regular typical barrel connector. And when you plug it in, there's no locking mechanism, so it just pops out. And it did not happen to me, luckily, in the middle of a flight. But when I was updating the drone, which you need the goggles to be powered to do a firmware update, it did pop out and I lost the cycle that I was in doing a firmware update. So I had to start over, which is not that big of a deal when you're just doing a firmware update. But if you were flying mid-flight, I don't know what happens if you pull that out. I don't know if you just put it back in and then just power cycle. But it does take a minute for the goggles to power up, because this is essentially what powers the goggles. There's no battery in this, and there's no way to hot swap this. So if this dies and you lose power to this and the drone is in the air, you're kind of just like stuck with the drone being in the air and you have no power. So being able to hot swap those batteries as well would be great. So if, you know, if this had some way to either have a little bit of a battery in it, which I know defeats the purpose of the size of it, which is not great, but just being able to hot swap these would be amazing. But also just to have a locking cable on this end in the future, you know, if that's version 2 or not, I don't know. That would be great. This side is locked, which is great. So I don't know why this side couldn't be locked. And then to have this cable be braided or just tougher and thicker, I think would just be really nice. It just seems like everything else is really premium. And then we have like a, you know, 6 to 8 cent cable holding it together. So I don't know. Hopefully in the future, we'll get a better cable. So one of the other cons is the fact that right now you can only fly it with the grip controller. We'd all love to see the ability to fly it with a regular controller, a typical screened or even non-screened drone controller. I know that's it's going to cause challenges. And, you know, there was, you know, rumor that something maybe already in the works, but the ability to fly it without the goggles and just fly it with a controller that has a screen has its own benefits. For one, setting it up is, as fast as it does set up, setting it up does take some time, and getting it all booted up to get ready to go. And I think just being able to put it up in the air with a controller is, sometimes easier if you just want to get a shot or you need to get a shot. So I think in the future, that would be nice to see if they had the ability to just put it up with a controller, giving it the ability to do more normal drone things, so that this could be maybe your all-in-one Swiss Army knife drone, and it doesn't have to be. You have two drones. Now, I know this doesn't have a gimbal like a normal drone, so some of the maneuvers you can do with a regular drone and stabilization, you're not going to get in this, but I think that just having some of the normal drone things would be really nice to have in this. So in a future update, or maybe version 2, that'd be cool to see. Along with that, flying with the goggles and not being able to see the line of sight, not only in some cases is illegal, but it's also kind of nerve-wracking at times if you don't have somebody with you and you're just flying by yourself. Yeah, I think just being able to fly this with a normal controller, I think would be nice. Just to have that capability at some point, just as an option, would be cool. So the last thing I'll say as far as cons go is really, it's just the cost of it. And I don't even know if that's really a con, more than just, it's just the reality of where we are in the world of technology, where we are in the world of the economy, especially here in the States, but just in general in the world, things are just really expensive right now. I don't know how you'd make this cheaper. It's a 3-part unit, and 2 of the 3 parts are super high technology that are really expensive. So if you were to just break it down, the drone itself, if you just took a drone and you combine it with an Insta360 camera, you're already over $1,000. So add the goggles, you're at the $1,500 mark. So I don't really know how you would get any cheaper. So it's kind of a bummer, but then again, I don't know what you would expect it to be. It's not like you could expect this thing to be under $1,000 for what it does, the quality it provides, the reliability that it's providing, and just the overall concept of the entire thing. It's just for it to be reliable, trustworthy, and capable of doing what it does, and not be, for lack of a better word, a piece of junk that's going to fall out of the air. It's got to be this price. So I don't know if that's a con or that's just where we are. It's expensive, and it is what it is. And I don't know if that's going to deter a lot of people from buying it, or people are just going to be like, it is what it is, and cool. It's really cool, and I want it. All right, so let's talk about who this drone might be made for. So as I was talking and kind of ranting about the price there, I think really it's going to determine on whether or not you are the type of person that wants to spend $1,500 to $2,000 on a drone or not. And if you are an early adopter, or if you're a professional that needs this kind of equipment, or if you are a lifestyle adventurer that's just looking for something like this that is going to enhance your lifestyle adventure, or if you are just the type of person that wants the greatest and newest technology. And really, does that price point fit in your budget? Does it fit in your grand scheme of, toys or camera equipment or whatever it is that you're looking to buy? That's really going to determine who should buy this equipment. If this is your first time in the drone market, maybe this is not the best drone to buy, because, if you crash it, that's a big investment to lose for your first time. Also, if you're just uninterested in flying a drone after some time, again, that's a big investment to lose if you are, a first-time drone flyer. So those are the questions that you're going to have to ask yourself if you're in the market for a drone of this price. If you're an experienced drone pilot and you're looking to, again, try something new or move into a different space, you know, maybe this is the drone that you're looking for and this is going to be for you. All right, so for my final thoughts and conclusion, like I said in my initial video, this is a really cool product. I think Antigravity definitely delivered. It's, again, super high quality. All the materials are really well built. They've thought it out through. It has taken a little bit longer to launch than I think they wanted and than the public wanted, but it's here, it's out now, which is great. Again, I think what's going to be the biggest factor, whether or not this survives or not, is going to be if that price point is too much for people to handle. I think in a perfect world, it's going to do well, and I hope it does well, because the survival of a company like Antigravity and a drone like the A1 is only better for you and I, because we need more competition like this in the marketplace. We need more innovation. It's been a really long time since something new like this has really broke through in the space, where it's changed things up and shaken things up in the drone space. Especially for years now, we've been reviewing similar drones. The only difference is they've gotten smaller with higher specs on the camera. They've gotten lighter or faster, but nothing really has changed. So to see something like this come out in the marketplace is really cool. It's been a while since something new like this has come out. So for me, I think it's really important that this drone and Antigravity survives this initial cycle, and I hope that they do, just for the simple fact that we need more innovation in the drone space. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for sticking around this long. I know this was a long one. If you guys want to see any more about the A1 or learn anything more about Antigravity, please let us know in the comments below. The drone is on sale now. You can hit them up on the Antigravity website. You can also find it at Best Buy here in the States. I believe it's going to be on sale there. And if you want to know more about it, or you want to see anything particular, again, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the DroneDJ channel, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.